Hey church family, it's good to be with you again, and today's daily devo will be on Acts chapter 22 verse 30 into Acts chapter 23 verse 11. And here Paul is brought before the Sanhedrin. So Paul's had a rough couple days here, and today's not really going to get any better, but let's dive in to what's happening here with Paul. And the scripture says, the next day, since he wanted to find out exactly why Paul was being accused by the Jews, he released him and instructed the chief priests and all the Sanhedrin to convene. He brought Paul down and placed him before them. Paul looked straight at the Sanhedrin and said, "Brothers, I have lived my life before God in all good conscience to this day." The high priest, Ananias, ordered those who were standing next to him to strike him on the mouth. Then Paul said to him, "God is going to strike you, you whitewashed wall. You are sitting there judging me according to the law, and yet in violation of the law are you ordering me to be struck." Now, we're not done there. We're going to keep going, but let's break that down for a minute. So Paul's brought in before the Sanhedrin. He opens up by calling them brothers, like he's equal to them. And I think there's a little bit of friction there once he relates to them as equals. And then, of course, he gets struck in the mouth. I don't know if he was slapped. I don't know if he was punched. But either way, Paul is now having yet another bad day because he just got struck in the mouth. And you can just imagine he's already disheveled he's been in prison. He's probably bound. And now they're beating on him. So things haven't got much better. But let's go on. Those standing nearby said, "Do you dare revile God's high priest?" Talking about who Paul was talking to. And Paul says, "I didn't know, brothers, that he was the high priest." He says, "For it is written, you must not speak evil of a ruler of your people." See, when Paul realizes what he's done here, he's a little apologetic. He's taken back. And the scriptures go on to say, when Paul realized that one part of them were Sadducees and the other part were Pharisees, he cried out in the Sanhedrin, "Brothers, I am a Pharisee, a son of Pharisees. I am being judged because of the hope of the resurrection of the dead." When he said this, a dispute broke out between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the assembly was divided, for the Sadducees say, "There is no resurrection, and neither angel nor spirit," but the Pharisees affirm them all. See, Paul knew right here that the Pharisees and Sadducees were kind of split on their theology. So he does like a couple of my friends like to do in a Bible study, and just kind of rolls a grenade into the middle of the room and just kind of watches the festivities here. And I don't know that Paul meant to stir them up as much as he did, but man, did he light a fuse in this room they were in and where they were having this discussion, because these two sides really disagreed on the subject of resurrection. We go on in verse 9. The shouting grew loud, and some of the scribes of the Pharisees' party got up and argued vehemently. "We find nothing evil in this man. What if a spirit or an angel has spoken to him?" So they're disagreeing. And he goes on to say, when the dispute became violent, the commander feared that Paul might be torn apart by them and ordered the troops to go down, take him away from them, and bring him into the barracks. The following night, the Lord stood by him and said, "Have courage, for as you have testified about me in Jerusalem, so it is necessary for you to testify in Rome." This argument got so heated. Things were going on. If you can just picture it, both sides getting physically violent at some point, spewing things back and forth. Paul's in the middle of it. And the guards decide, hey, we got to get Paul out of here. We got to bring him to safety. So just take him back to the barracks, put him back in his cell, basically, and we'll let these guys figure out what they want to do. In the meantime, Paul goes back to his cell. Well, what an amazing thing. Paul's had just a wacko of a day. He's been beat on, he's been yelled at, he's been accused of things. But at the end of the day, Paul goes back, and he's got a moment by himself. And it says here, the Lord stood by him and said, "Have courage, for as you have testified about me in Jerusalem, so it is necessary for you to testify in Rome." See, what's happening here is at the end of his day, like many of us, Are we standing and listening to the Lord? Because the Lord's encouraging him. He's telling him, hey, this is not over. As you have been here in Jerusalem testifying, I'm sending you to Rome to testify. I encourage you, church family, to, at the end of your rough day, say a prayer. Draw yourself close to God and listen to what he has to say. I'm sure it'll be encouraging, as just as the Lord encouraged Paul, he encourages us if we spend that time to listen. Church family, I love you. It was great to be with you today. Thank you. I'll see you again soon.